Hi, I'm Laura Levenson, and I'm here today with my Weichert colleague, Nidhi Mirpuri, Client Services Director based in Hong Kong, as well as Lata Patel, Managing Director, and Rajesh Motwani, CEO of IOS Relocations, a leading destination service provider for India. Today, we're diving into a fascinating topic that's capturing everyone's attention: the dynamics of relocation in India. With the country's business landscape evolving rapidly, understanding the factors driving these movements has never been more crucial. Whether it's Indian nationals moving between states for better opportunities or talent coming in, the spotlight is firmly on India. Join us as we explore why this trend is gaining momentum and what it means for businesses and professionals alike. Based on our client base and the types of client we help to move, I'd like to start with you, Nidhi. And what are the key factors that attract industries and multinational companies to India?
Well, India's appeal to industries and multinational companies are driven by several different factors: large market size and growing domestic market. So India's population is about more than 1.4 billion, and India offers such a vast and increasing consumer base for goods and services. So this growing domestic demand attracts companies looking to expand their market reach. So that's one factor. Another factor is economic growth. So India is one of the fastest growing major economies with a projected growth rate of 6.5% for the financial year 2024 and 25. Another very important factor is the skilled workforce. So India has a large pool of skilled professionals, particularly in the IT, engineering, and the finance. So all the multinational companies have a wealth of talent. Another factor I would emphasize is favorable government policies. So India has come up with several different initiatives, one of them being Make in India. And then we do also have production linked incentive schemes, which increases the foreign companies wanting to invest in India for the various different sectors and encouraging more of these multinational companies to set up their operations in India as well. One other factor is lower labor cost and operational cost compared to the Western countries. And I would like to also say that India's location is probably very advantageous for them in terms of exporting goods to markets like Middle East, Europe, Africa, and even within Asia. So this strategic positioning helps them to build trade networks and connecting with the global markets. And lastly, I would like to mention that they're expanding infrastructure. So there has been significant improvement in the physical and digital infrastructures that have made the business environments quite healthy and enhanced the business experience. So this includes a better transportation network, digitalization, and streamlined compliance processes. So these are some factors that have contributed to it.
Nidhi, thank you so much. And how has and does the movement of talent within India influence economic growth? Rajesh, can you provide some examples of industries that you're supporting right now that have significantly impacted India's local economy?
Well, thank you, Laura. This is an amazing question. Absolutely happy to do that. Talent mobility within India is honestly one of the most exciting forces driving economic growth right now. When people move for work, they're just not bringing their skills, they're actually getting fresh ideas, innovative approaches, and a whole lot of energy that really helps to build a stronger, more dynamic, and creative ecosystems. So sort of mobility really ensures that industries in different parts of the countries get access to the right skills and really get them a big competitive edge, whether it's in domestic or in global markets. Now, there are certain trends which are really transforming India, and one of them actually Nidhi alluded to. But let's start with the first one, which is really critical in terms of consumerism. So there is something called as a demographic dividend. India has a huge advantage. 65% of the population is under the age of 35. That really makes it a great audience. It can be great for consumption, which is consumers, and the service providers. So these are like two very critical segments, both for domestic as well as the international markets. The second thing, which is a very Indian term, which is called as Atma Nirbhar or Make in India, which is also a very strong focus for India's Prime Minister. And then that really means is self-sufficient. So the third thing is, which is called as changing landscapes in the GCCs, and I'll explain what that means. So there's a third big transformation area here. Offshore companies which have come to India long ago were previously just set up a cost arbitrage, if you will. And what that really was basically means that a lower cost provider of services. But now all of these are transforming into innovation hubs. And these are high value, very profitable solutions, if you will, for exports. And these are now transforming to what they call a center of excellence or global capability centers. So GCCs are just innovation up, transforming to centers of excellence, and they just raise the bar up over there. So the offshore centers now, which are basically moving out of India, sort of to English-speaking countries, to the likes of Philippines. The need is for highly qualified talent, higher paid jobs, and then the government is really incentivizing companies to move to tier 2 and tier 3 cities. So there's a large scale local movement. And when you add to local movement, and you basically also need a complete supporting ecosystem. You need to have hospitality, healthcare, retail stores. The whole 9 yards is available in order to support that. And it's proved that talent mobility is just not about urban expansion. It's about an economic empowerment, which you're seeing across the board.
Fascinating. Can you provide examples of industries that you're supporting right now that have significantly impacted India's local economy?
So let's talk about some of the industries which are thriving out here and which are really contributing to the local economies. Uh, Medicine, pharma, I think it's a very large consumer, which is a consumable item. India happens to be the world's largest producer of generic, and affordable healthcare. You need to make it cheap, but you also need to make it high quality. And then you need to produce that particular volume. So we're generating 20% of the global, supply by volume. We are going to be exporting 130 odd billion by 2030. And these are all basically between consumption as well as global exports. So that's one example. The other example I just want to touch upon is e-commerce. I think, it's a very important factor because you had Walmart who came in and acquired a company called Flipkart out here and one of the largest acquisition. Then Amazon is big in India. Zomato is basically all about food delivery. And we can do this in like less than 10 minutes. So these are all game changers because they are creating job opportunities for, yes, they may not be the highly paid job opportunity, but they're also creating an ecosystem where you're creating warehousing system, logistics, support services. So all of that is basically going to transform India. What they're saying is a $40 billion market today. By 26, it's a fixed growth. It's going to be like $200 billion. So it's big numbers. But in the larger scheme of things, we still have a lot of place to grow. We will be a 4.5 trillion. USA is like a 30 trillion. So we got lots of ways to go. And with this demand, you're basically making these very tech powerhouses. So what that obviously helps to basically add more investments in the cities. And then just, it's adding more and more companies, the mid-tier companies, IT companies are now coming. Manufacturing, I mean, who knows better than Weichert, who's basically working with one of the largest clients in India called Micron, and they basically are setting up a state-of-the-art semiconductor plant in West Gujarat, which is in Ahmedabad. So literally, you can see an economic marvel, a ripple effect, which is in action. Last and most, I must touch upon the financial services because that's where the money is. I mean, that's what's funding everything out here. So to wrap up, let me say it's really exciting time, robust growth areas, significant job creation, industries that continue to strengthen India's position on the local as well as the global stage. And then it's driving economic empowerment across the country. So these are some of the examples which we touched upon: pharma, manufacturing, fintech, and the classic IT.
In our next segment, we will talk about how companies are addressing those bureaucratic challenges, such as the tax laws, rising costs, and you name it. Thank you so much for your input.